got home from the war, became a police officer in short order, completely mentally exhausted and pushing. And the end result, things snuck up on me. First, a lot of drinking. And anytime I wasn't working, I was self-medicating with alcohol.
Benjamin Thomas Iobst. He is a PhD level organizational development psychologist. He is a combat veteran who was a sniper during the worst period in Iraq, in Ramadi. Following the military, he joins the police force, the Allentown Police Department, where he retired. So he has seen combat in country and abroad. Now he serves our community of first responders and military veterans.
My time in the military, I didn't really know that what I was experiencing was really as intense as it was. When I got out and I came home, it began to really set in that what we had experienced in Ramadi was not, war's war, but it was the more intense version of it. For a long time, I kind of had the attitude of grit. I was just going to keep pushing on. If I ignore the pain, I will do okay because I can tough these things out. And that's what got me through my military career. That's what, most infantry, combat arms, special operations, a lot of police officers, first responders, we view grit as essential. And it really is to get us through things in those day-to-day operations. But it eventually wears out and you wear down. And that was what's happening to me. I guess I should disclose, I have a TBI as well, traumatic brain injury as well, from being hit by many IEDs over my time in Iraq. And, the best way I can describe it is, we are changed from what happened to us. And it's essential that we do as many healthy things as we can possibly do, because whatever unhealthy things we do, they're going to be magnified and amplified. And I know in my case, the drinking was just the tip of the iceberg. Then it started with isolation. The drinking caused my brain chemistry, which was already messed up from the TBI and the PTSD, to be more off balance. Then the isolation starts, then the paranoia starts. And the next thing you know, you're completely out of touch with reality. I knew something was wrong, and I wanted to be quote unquote fixed. And that goes into, again, the desperation that we're seeing in a lot of veterans now that are willing to do treatments which really may not be scientifically based, but they're desperate. You want to fix what's going on here. And what I've found is the fix is connection with other people who have been through these things and good, solid, evidence-based treatment on the psychology and psychiatry realm. But you become very desperate and you're willing to do just about anything to try to fix the pain or stop the pain. And again, and sadly, that's why we see suicide being so high, because the pain, we view that the pain needs to be stopped, and that is a way to, stop pain. But it is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. We can work our way through these things. One of the things that I can impart to the veteran and first responder community is being very careful with some of the treatments that are being talked about out there. There's a lot of real good scientific stuff. There's a lot of really good, great programs out there. But some of these newer programs that they're beginning to roll out, psychedelic treatment for PTSD, microdosing, bear in mind that can cause paranoid delusion. And when you have a person that has severe PTSD, you add in paranoid delusion, we have a powder keg here. They're completely out of touch with reality, and more so than the PTSD alone causes. In the past year, there's been a lot of talk about psychedelics being the magic treatment for PTSD. When studies in the 60s and 70s have shown and were proven that in a good chunk of veterans, it does cause paranoid delusion. And now we see this again, where it's being talked about. Guys are out there experimenting with it. And now we're seeing veterans becoming extremely paranoid, having delusions. So PTSD and TBI either could cause severe paranoia. a lot of times these individuals are still able to do their jobs, right? They can show up, they can armor up, they can suit up, and they can do their muscle memory jobs. It's that free time, that isolated time, that time that we're not operational, that the mind wanders, and it starts to connect things that normally would not connect. For example, say you have a delivery driver, you got an Amazon driver who's assigned to the area, but he's one of those guys that uses his personal car. You see that car over and over again. In an operational sense, we're going to identify that we're seeing the same thing over and over again. And rather than going the rational route of, all right, what's this guy doing in the neighborhood? And it could be something as simple as he's an Amazon driver. We start looking for another reason. And we start deep diving into the internet on what is this reason this person is now here. And the next thing you know, it's turned into something entirely different. And a lot of that, when you're talking about this community, our training is great. We're well trained. Our situational awareness is extremely high. And then you add in the potential for paranoia to develop. And we're also a lot of times researchers, we want to find the meaning behind what's going on here, but we connect it to the wrong meaning. And that happens out of our PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. And then, a lot of times in those situations, when we're not totally far gone, we do recognize, oh man, I'm going down rabbit holes. And we'll talk to, another person about that and recenter ourselves. But if we're isolating and we don't have a support structure, or we're afraid to reach out to a support structure because we're still active in those communities. I know me, myself, when I was going through my issues with drinking, initially I was afraid. I was afraid to reach out. I mean, here I am, an operational police officer still out there in a major city. And I was scared that what I was going through was going to derail my entire career. And it ended up not. It ended up actually enhancing my career once I got the treatment I needed. But coming forward was the key to get that treatment and getting it in a healthy way. Anybody that's a first responder or a veteran, having worked on the sacrificial side of working for the government, we do understand, and probably most of us have some level of a resentment towards the government because we put our lives on the line. A lot of times for people that have never worn a uniform. And we recognize that as time goes on. The healthy outlook on that is we really have to try to understand that, one, we're not alone. There's a lot of us that did this work and we could help each other. And the second thing is we are blessed that we're in a country that we can talk about this. We can talk about this. We can talk about the fact that, we do have some distrust towards the government and we do want to go out there and get some help. There's many countries out there that, if a prior military member or police officer started talking about the government, they would just disappear. And thank God we're not in one of those countries. We're in a country where, we did put the uniform on and fight for people's rights. And we also have those rights. I can tell you from my own experience within the work I do with first responders and veterans, I've seen situations. One, for example, it was a veteran, and he was experimenting with kratom, which is an herb that's called a gray drug. It's sold in gas stations for anxiety, which can also cause paranoid delusions. And he started taking these and had a very, very tough go and a lot of paranoia. We were able to kind of surround him emotionally and get him some help. And thankfully, we could pull him out of that. But unchecked and isolated, he was headed towards absolute disaster. And then I saw another one that similar, messing around with substances, lost touch with reality, and he did not make it out the other end. He ended up committing suicide. And that's where that disconnection can really, really become dangerous. And a lot of the things that they were both talking about during these things are very similar. It comes from, we have a training and education and experience that's really based in what's actually going on around the world. And we're in positions to know what's actually happening. But then we start mixing in substances, with PTSD and TBI. And the next thing we know, those things that are 100% real, we are now connecting to something else. And that's where that paranoia comes into play. Again, most paranoia is based in something that's real that we're connecting to something that we're creating in our mind. And then when they get together, disaster. One of the best treatments for paranoia is talking with one a professional, and two culturally competent peers that are healthy as well, especially from our world. We are looking for those who have been in some element of something similar to us, but they're healthy examples. And that's what we're really seeing works, is getting vets and first responders around other vets and first responders that are healthy. We are really pack animals. We do everything we do in the first responder and veteran world that we're successful at, we do as a team. And we need to recover as a team from the operations that we work on. So getting around other healthy veterans and being careful not to end up around unhealthy ones, because that can happen very easily. That can happen very, very easily, where, I have similarity with this guy. He likes to hang out in the bar all night. And next thing you know, you're palling around, but you're both living very unhealthy lifestyles. But you're hanging on that commonality and camaraderie. We need to find that same thing on the healthy side. And it exists out there. There's a lot of support groups out there, a lot of wellness groups. And the VA is really starting to pay attention to this as well, getting that peer side really, really active. Because who better to guide us than those that have been there before us? Now, with the PTSD side of things, it is essential for connectedness. It's essential to begin the work, to start to help that heal, and to help the person see that trauma from a different perspective, a growing perspective. And again, that's not to say that the psychiatry route of this, which is medications for anxieties and things like that, that can be extremely helpful. That can be extremely helpful in concert with the psychological approach as well. But that's where, again, I really caution our first responders and veterans that if you're Googling and you see, the magic pill is microdosing of this or that, and I can order this stuff from this website, and you just start taking it, disaster could happen. And it has happened. It has happened. I put it this way. If you have high blood pressure, we don't go down to the 7-Eleven to buy our blood pressure medication. We go to the doctor for it. Same thing with our PTSD and our anxiety. Let's not try to, buy something we saw on the internet that's going to change our brain chemistry, because the result can be catastrophic. So we started a podcast called Tribe of the Restored Warriors. It kind of comes out a little bit of, we're a tribe. There's been publications about that, and finding the tribe that you belong to. And so we named it Tribe of the Restored Warriors, because that's what we're working towards. We're working towards restoration of our lives. It's not weak to get help. If we have a broken knee and we go and try to go to the gym with that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? It's not weak to go to the doctor and get some x-rays and get some PT. Let's try to develop that same mentality for our mental health, because it really is the same thing. We have some injuries that need to heal, and it's not weakness, it's strength to recognize that we need to take care of one another and let our injuries heal. Best way to get a hold of me is just shoot me an email. It's BIOBST at bticonsultingservice.com. And you're more than welcome to email me, especially if you're a veteran or a first responder that is looking for help. I may not be familiar with your region, but I can help you guide you a little bit to try to get some assistance.